going for Josh. Come on down, Josh.
You did it, man.
Yeah, you're going to do wonders and eat rotten cucumbers. Do wonders and eat rotten cucumbers. What an odd phrase. But yet, that was the phrase that came to my mind as I was contemplating my next project. You see, I'm a woodworker, but I'm still new at this because it's a hobby I've been at for 10 years. But in 10 years, that's not very long when you're learning how to build things. But over the course of the last 10 years, I've built things from simple furniture to more complex furniture. I've built cutting boards and charcuterie boards, custom signs for people's homes and for their offices. And I have a friend who is an interior designer, and she's even commissioned me to build a few pieces for her clients. And so at this point, I'm not a beginner, but I'm also not an expert. And so there's a lot I still have to learn about woodworking, but I'm also a musician, and I've played guitar and sung for a long time. And so this thought came to my mind of building my own guitar. And so I thought, this will be a really fun project. But as I started researching building guitars, I don't know how much you know about what goes into the construction of a guitar, but the neck alone is super complex. And when you think about a neck, you're taking a solid piece of wood, and you've got to shape it to where it feels comfortable in your hand. Then you've got to cut a groove down the middle for the truss rod, and that truss rod is used once the guitar is put together to adjust tension so that you can adjust intonation. Then you've got a fretboard that's glued on top. And that fretboard, you have to cut slots for the frets. And those slots from the top of the neck to the bottom, those get narrower and narrower. And did I mention that there's math involved? Really complex math. And so as I started looking at all these different things that go into this project, I thought, I don't know that I'm quite ready for this yet. And so I paused, but then there was something in me that said, you know what, I want to give this a shot. Because at the same time as I was having these thoughts, that phrase came to mind again. You're going to do wonders and eat rotten cucumbers. I don't know if that's a phrase you've ever heard before, but for me, it has a long history. It's deep in my DNA. It was a phrase that my grandfather would often say to my mom and her 5 siblings, and it was a phrase that I would hear my mom and my aunts and uncles say when I was a kid, and most of the time that phrase was said in jest. It was like if you had this grand idea of something you wanted to do, someone would say, you're going to do wonders and eat rotten cucumbers. It was kind of this way of saying, yeah, right. We'll believe you when we see the end of this story. And so when I was thinking about building this guitar, that came to my mind. And at the same time, I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a person who quits before they even begin. I don't want to give up on a dream, just because there's this voice in the back of my head saying, you're not going to be able to figure this out. What makes you think you can build a guitar? And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so for the next 9 months, I watched YouTube videos, and I reached out to other luthiers and guitar makers and people who've gone before me who are really good at this craft. And surprisingly, a lot of these people who are really good at what they do responded and answered my questions. And so I continued to just trudge along, and I would watch more videos, and then I would build a prototype, and then I would try something, and it wouldn't work, and so then I'd have some more scrap lumber to burn in the backyard. And after 9 months, I made it all the way through this process, and I had a guitar that I had built with my own hands and that I could play. And it was interesting because at the end of that process, something happened. I wired the guitar up, put the strings on, tuned it, and I was nervous because I was like, okay, how's this going to sound? Like, is it going to be what I thought it was? Plugged it into my amp, and I played that first chord. And it was something magical because in that moment, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment, but also there was this sense of, you know what? For so long, I think I would have let that voice in the back of my head say, you're not going to be able to do this. But this time I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. And I was able to get to the end of the process, and now I have this guitar that I will have forever. But even more than that guitar, I'll be able to tell myself, you know what? You can do wonders, and you don't have to eat rotten cucumbers anymore.